This is a recording on social media, especially designed for senior adults. Today's presentation, I'll be defining what social media is. We'll show you how to stay safe while using it, and we'll also cover some common social media sites that you may specifically be interested in. We'll also explain social media etiquette to keep you and other people out of trouble. First thing I'd like to do is define exactly what social media is. It's computer programs or apps, which are applications that you download to your computers or your phone devices, and it provides a way for people to connect with their family. It also provides ways to develop new friendships with others. It also provides a way for you to join group with the same interest as your own, also meeting people online or meeting people or groups in person. It also provides information and discussion about the area where you live. It can be used for dating connections as well. And we'll give you some examples of dating sites that are specific to seniors. We'll provide marketing listings and ratings and show you how that works. And we'll also can be used for ways to buy and sell items online. Social media can also be used to provide information on businesses in your area with the ratings, how people like them, what they don't like about them, and many other things. It will also provide professional networking. If you are still continuing your professional life and want to enhance it, we'll show you some sites that are used specifically for that. We'll also provide information on trying to avoid fake news and conspiracies and steps you need to take in order to do that. Staying safe with social media is basically first thing I want to cover is why people avoid social media. One reason, fear of stolen identity or personal information. Sometimes they'll do it because they feel there's a loss of privacy. And yes, this can happen if you allow it to. Also, some people won't use it because it's too complicated to learn. Well, some sites are, some are not. It depends what you're going to use it for. We'll cover all of this in today's talk. Also, incorrect understanding and use. They'll go on a social media site and wind up using it incorrectly because it's not designed for what you're trying to do. The reality we need to all be aware of is you need to assume that your private information is already compromised to a good degree. If you purchase with credit card use in certain stores and even online, what will happen is that they will sell information about your interests and likings to many different people, and they give them enough information to be able to identify who you are, especially if not by no other means than by sharing your emails or you're sharing your sites that you're on. Some of them will share only aggregate data, so they don't get any of your personal information. But there's many ways information is already compromised. The other thing is when you purchase your driver's license, some states have been noted to sell the information of driver license information to different sites and vendors as well. Tax records. I came from South Carolina, and 5 years ago, they'd had millions of tax records exploited for all personal information. And a lot of this information was stolen. They didn't have an exact idea of whose was and whose was not. So therefore, they did provide some insurance capabilities for a certain amount of time. Also, email responses. If you click on anything in an email, that could be a way of sharing your personal information or even doing more damage to you or your computer. So when you're clicking on something in the email, be really sure of where that email came from. What to share on your profile when you're setting up social media. Of course, you want people to know your name if you're going to be communicating with them. It's okay to do that. That information is already out there. Another thing is going to be location, city, and state. Here again, if you're looking up for things that are pertinent to your area and where you live and what you do, a lot of these sites are driven by location. So if you tell them your location, they'll be able to help you out much better. It's also a picture of having your picture online. Some people don't like to do it. Some it's okay with. Most sites you're going to be fairly safe. Here again, it's a choice that you can make on your own. There's no requirement to share pictures on social media, but almost every one of them do offer that capability. The only ones that may require it are some of the dating apps, because they want to make sure they know who's communicating. Also, share your interests. Share what you want others to know about you. That's the whole purpose of using social media. And make sure you share in a way to where you can't be harmed. And what I mean by that is personal information and things that you do to where somebody can maybe steal your ideas or things along that line. Avoid actual date of birth. I recommend this for all sites, or most sites at least. And what I recommend is misdating your actual birthday between roughly 30 and 60 days or so. If you're on a dating site, this is not going to hurt you. If you're using social media for any other reason, the only thing they're going to do is get birthday wishes, especially on Facebook, on the wrong day. Not a big deal, and it's a way of keeping people from getting easy access to your actual information. When you're on social media, make sure you're positive. Once you start negative comments, this can draw a myriad of problems for everybody concerned and involved, especially yourself. So make sure you're positive, and also make sure that the data you give is as accurate as possible. How to stay safe with social media. What not to share on home postings. Don't tell people what your travel plan dates are or where you're traveling at the time you're doing it. A lot of people will do this on Facebook. Facebook will even do it for you. And the danger of this is, if you're away from home, you want your stuff safe, thieves can look on here and get an idea when you're not home, when is the most opportune time to come in and perform a robbery on your home. And you want to keep routine habits, even not specific as to where you're going or what you're doing, such as like weekly times that you travel to things like church or specific meetings or gatherings of various types. I wouldn't share these exact time and dates until it is done and you come back. Then that's a good time to do it. Nobody's going to be able to harm you in any way because you're already gone and you're already back, and they'll know your home is not free and unattended. Account numbers requested by other members. A lot of sites will request us to join, and you have to be very careful. Most sites that are real reputable, they're okay. They're going to wind up using information maybe to make a purchase, or you'll use it for rejoining that group again in a year, or re-upping. And these are okay by most reputable groups. They're going to hide your information. It's not going to be made public. Are you required to do it? No. You can also re-up for information by using your credit card at that specific time. I use a program called Dashlane for my safety. I explain this in another type of presentation, and that's nice because it keeps all my credit cards safe, but with one click I can designate where a credit card is used without having to type in all the information. Making friends. If somebody sends you a friend invitation, on some of the sites you need to be careful. Most of them you're okay. Probably one of the biggest violators of this is Facebook. People are able to find out enough about you to make others think that they're speaking to you, or even to steal your information. So if somebody wants to make a friend and they're requesting it from you, what I would recommend, the very first thing to do is to make sure of who it is. Either call them to confirm or search their name and request to friend them. Legitimate friends requests are usually done on the site itself and not by emails. So if you get an email and it says so-and-so wants to be your friend on Facebook, I would probably not answer that. I would delete that email. Go to Facebook, look and see who it is. If it's a legitimate friend of yours, and you have any questions, contact them and make sure that it is them. And you can also do a search on Facebook of the person's name. In most cases, they'll give you all their basic information that they allow them to have. Other sites will do the same thing. Legitimate friend requests, like I said, are done mostly on site and not by email. If you have already listed a person as your friend, and it says to another request to make them your friend, these are bogus. They're not legitimate, and what they have done is either probably stolen that person's account, or they're mimicking that person's account. And I would make sure that you block that individual. If you are already listed as their friend, here again, that your friend's account has probably been hacked, let them know. And the first thing they need to do for that is change their password. Won't necessarily stop that double account, but at least if they are cloning their account, then that person will no longer have access to the real person's account. If you meet people from online establishments, such as like dating apps or going to meetings or things like that, what you want to do is make sure you meet them in public at a public food establishment, such as like McDonald's, Burger King, or a restaurant where there's many other people present. Don't tell them what kind of car you're driving, or you'll meet them in a parking lot. It's not a safe way to do things. And what you want to do is make sure that the area is open and there's other people present. Set up to have a friend contact you or contact them at a given time while you're having this first meeting or first two meetings. And that way that person will know that you're safe during the meeting and also that you're doing okay. If they don't hear from you, then they need to know where you're at and go looking for you. Facebook, let's talk about this site first. It's probably the most used. It's very good. It's not necessarily bad. It can be safe, and it's used by most people, and it's excellent for sharing activities and interests with your families and friends, seeing what they're doing, posting things on there. Perfectly fine to do. And here again, you just need to be wary that you don't want to share a lot of private information when you're making posts that others can see. If you're sending private notes, you're going to be safe doing that, such as on your messenger. But when you're making posts to the general public that shows up on their home screen, then here again, you want to keep your information pretty sacred. Again, if you're taking trips, wait till the trip's over, load all your pictures that you want to show, your videos, whatever, and then make the comments then. Set up your profile. That's the very first thing you're going to do. How much information on your profile is how much information you want to share. However, your address, things such as like your basic information is okay to do, because that information is already out there from many other sites and things that you've done to get it there or you didn't realize you were doing to get it there. So, but the things you don't want to put on your profile here again is information such as like the exact birth date, unless you look yourself up and it already shows one and it's correct. And I always here again change them to a few days off. You want to invite family and friends. The best way to do that is you go to the search bar and you go and search for their names. It'll come up. I'll show you everybody with that name. You can pick the correct person. You click on it and they'll send them a friend request. And that's how you make friends on Facebook. Or they'll send you a request when they see your name. Again, just make sure if they're sending you a request that you know who it is and it's them. You can join groups. And there's a lot of great organizations and groups that use Facebook. These are safe. Groups maybe such as like churches you attend. It could be hobby groups that you belong to. It could be many different things. If they have the Facebook page, even families will set up Facebook pages. And that's a good way to keep constant contact, know what's going on, and even meet people in groups online. Posting things of interest you want others to know. Avoid posting travel, just like I mentioned a couple times, until you return. Marketplace. Facebook does have a very good place for purchasing. It's competitive with Amazon and eBay and other sites. The only thing I'll say is if you're going to purchase or sell things on Marketplace, make sure that you don't accept checks and you don't accept things through mail that's easy to track, such as like money orders, stuff like that. Either meet the person in person and make a cash transaction, or you can use sites such as like PayPal, where they can hold the payment until all legitimate transactions have taken place. Another good way is to meet somebody somewhere and exchange cash for the item that you're purchasing. Blocking unwanted people. This is easy to do, and I'm frequently asked how to do it. What you do if you receive a message or you're looking at a person's information, what you do is right click on their name and you'll see three dots that you can click on. Just click on that and you'll see an item where you can block that individual. When you block a person, they are not notified automatically, but they can find out if they do a search who has blocked them or not. Twitter is another type account that's very popular. I consider Twitter to be the site of the people that you wanted to be in your life, but you didn't quite get there. The reason I'm saying that, a lot of famous people use Twitter and they communicate with their fans openly on it. So it is a well-used site, but it's used for a lot of other things. Movie stars use it, singers, politicians, everybody else. They like to use Twitter and tweet. A lot of TV programs will even refer to Twitter. The safety of it is about the same as Facebook. Again, you got to be careful, but here again, it is generally pretty safe. Twitter is more designated to let people get to know you in any positive aspects about you, your interests, and your accomplishments. It's not used generally for trying to network for businesses, although it can be used for that. It's more to let people know of basically what your expertise is and interest is. Infuse personality in your profile so people will know about you. You're jovial, you're introverted, you're extroverted, things that you like to do. Again, things that is okay for people to know. Tweet constantly and leave space for people to reply. And stay consistent with your tweets. You don't want to give them an idea that you may have a bipolar personality or you're doing many different things of interest. Try and stay fairly consistent with your interest. Ask and answer questions of people. This is a good place to get to know them. It's okay to ask them. They'll share what they want to with you. And you'll be surprised what famous people will share with you. And some of them will tell you about, hey, in my spare time I do gardening, and what do you recommend for this? And things like that. So it's a great place to connect with people. Be generous to promote others where you would like to see them promoted. It's a good stage for a ranking to some degree, and so Twitter is a good place to do that. Craft your tweets. Again, make sure you don't just start typing things willy-nilly because you may wind up putting stuff out there that you don't want to mention. When you tweet, and the tweet here again is messaging, use under 140 characters, and I think it may even force you to do that. Here again, just to keep things simple, quick reading. People do not like to read books on these social networks. They want to read a sentence or two about who you are, what you're doing, and changing information. Let's look at Nextdoor. This is another good social site. It's a great place to keep up to date with information about the area where you live. People will share business ratings. They'll say, I ate at this place today, the food was good, it wasn't so good, things along that line, or the line was too long, or I really like this waiter, or stuff like that. They'll share, like, I had my house painted by somebody, they did a good job, they didn't do such a good job. What's nice, it's all related to the area where you live. That's why it's important to have your correct location in there. If you're using a program that a lot of us use for safety called VPN, Virtual Private Networks, and I'll cover this in another presentation. But if you know what that is and you're using it, make sure when you sign up on these sites, you put the location where you are really at, because not the VPN of where you're at. Otherwise, they'll think you're in China or Timbuktu. So when you're filling out your identification information, that should be your real address area. And Nextdoor is also good for neighborhood incidents. People will list when there's accidents, when there's police activity. We had one recently in Carmel here where a person was going around stopping at mailboxes that had the flags up. And they did put that out on Nextdoor, and eventually the police were able to make an arrest. Neighborhood warnings, various types of things. There's a pothole that needs to be fixed, things like that. Dogs running wild, all sorts of stuff. Also, a lot of people like to be comical on there, and you can get some really good jokes off Nextdoor. So it is a good social site to use. Online interest groups in your area, It's very good for that. Maybe you're starting a garden club where you live, or a knitting club or something like that, and you want to know who in your area is doing that and things that you can do online with them. Nextdoor does have a great capability for that, and actually so does Facebook and some others. Information about where you live. That's what it's going to give you. That's what Nextdoor is about. And usually what's nice about Nextdoor, it's one of the sites where they choose an administrator to take care of your area. When they start seeing negative posts from you, or if they start seeing a lot of fake news, stuff like that, the administrators have the right to cut your account off. In some places, the administrators are right on top of it. Other places, they totally ignore it. The last place I lived, the administrator was from 6-7 years ago. They had since moved. They were living in a different part of the United States, so they didn't care. And the posts were getting rampant with erroneous information and blames and stuff like that. Carmel, this seems to be pretty well kept up, and I'm sure you do something negative, you'll probably hear from the administrator. Meetup is another good social group. This is a great place for groups of interest, especially a lot of professional interests, hobbies, things like that. In Meetup, more of the meetings are going to be done not only online, but they meet somewhere like a library or a restaurant, or like I belong to bicycling groups, and they'll tell you what their bike rides are and stuff like that. But it also, they do a lot of professional meetings as well. If you want to learn how to do computer programming, they have meetups where you can meet from time to time with interest. If you want to learn how to become a hacker on the internet, they'll show you how to do that in some areas. And these are usually personal meetings, but you can join these groups, and it's really good for that. It's a combination of professional and hobby that scheduler meetings connect with others of similar interest. Social media etiquette. Enjoy connecting with others. There's nothing wrong with that, especially your friends and family. Enjoy sharing your interest and knowledge, and respect others when you're on there. If you don't care for somebody, please try not to use social media to carry out any kind of vindictive behavior. Bullying can be very bad. It can be very harmful. It has caused suicides from people causing disrespect, and also in some places murders. So you got to be careful with social media, and do respect others, or just don't contact them. If somebody starts bullying you, make sure you block them, get them out of your vision. Otherwise, you can turn into one of them as well. Be kind, or mentioned enough there. Be informative. Let them know who you are, what you're on there for, what you want to do, what you want to find out, who you want to connect up with, and you'll be surprised. A lot of information. Avoid, like I said before, negative criticism. One bad criticism of a business that's struggling can wind that business to be destroyed. Especially if it's a business where only a few people go to. They get one negative, other people are thinking of starting to become a client or use that business, and then all of a sudden nobody will go, and next thing you know, they're closed down. So if it's a negative contact, make sure it's well proven, and it's not something that one type of tweet or bit of information is going to wind up destroying that person. Watch out for conspiracies and fake information. The internet is full of it. All social medias, or many of them, are full of fake information. They want you to buy into political information. They want you to buy into conspiracy groups. They want you to buy into things that aren't true. A lot of fake news. So check your information out. Make sure that it's accurate before you start becoming a person that's really going to pay a lot of attention to a group. And they're fairly easy to tell by comparing it with news, comparing with other people that belong to that, what are their backgrounds. But here again, a lot of people are carrying vendettas out there that want to harm other individuals. Avoid cyberbullying. I can't say enough of that. And unfriend anybody that does, if they're negative or defaming or attacking in nature. Here's a listing of some groups, and you can do a screenshot of this if you would like to. And what it does, I kind of grouped them. So if you want to contact family and friends, these are apps underneath those groups that are good for that. hobbies and interests, you got Facebook. Pinterest is good for all over the country. If you have a hobby such as like you're trying to build a certain type building, or maybe you're trying to knit certain clothes, maybe it's cook certain food. And Pinterest is a great place to meet people with your interest worldwide. It's generally not only on a local level. So if you're trying to get into something new, you want to know how to get there, Pinterest is a great way to do it. Reddit is another one. I'm not going to say too much about it. I don't use it myself, but a lot of people say they like Reddit for, again, hobbies and interest. Nextdoor and Meetup, we already covered the basic of those. Professional networking. LinkedIn is probably the master of that. When you're listed on LinkedIn, you're putting information of who you are, your accomplishments, your resume information, and also people that you would like to really identify with. LinkedIn is kind of famous because employers that are searching for employees, they'll go to LinkedIn and say, I want this kind of expertise. Who can help me? And that's where they're going to find it. So it's probably the leading professional data exchange place of establishing yourself. Twitter is good. Elite Seniors is great if you want to do mentoring in certain areas because you have a great expertise. This is a great place to list yourself. And again, Meetup. But Meetup is more local, and it's a great place to meet people with the same expertise or that has no expertise that you have, or you want to gain expertise that you don't have anything of in meeting people in clubs. Personal establishments, that's where you use Facebook. TikTok came out a couple of years ago. It's fairly recent. It started out as 30-second videos or shorter for most cases of something very funny. And people were starting to make a lot of money off it because they get 1 million hits of somebody looking at their TikTok exposure, and the vendors and companies would all of a sudden start offering these people a lot of money, and they were doing very well. Or they'd wind up starting their own business off of TikTok, and a lot of entrepreneurs got started that way. It also has done some bad things of dares, where one teenager will dare another one to drink something like paint thinner or things like this. It has been responsible for causing severe illnesses and deaths based on the teenage dares, as we call them, or younger dares. And so you got to be a little careful with what you're reading. But there's a lot of funny stuff. It's fun just to watch, not even necessarily partake of. Again, meetups and Twitter are other ones, and we already covered those. Senior dating sites. You got eHarmony, which is probably one of the leaders. They're going to prove who you are before you start sending out information. So you're generally not going to get an erroneous individual or a fake ID. You can, there are ways to do it, but generally it's one of the better sites. OkCupid is listed very high. For seniors, Silver Singles is probably listed as one of the best. Again, they do try to prove who you are. Our Time is another one. And Tinder. Tinder is of your local area only, and you'll be able to communicate immediately with people that are online that live within blocks. Our Time does that as well, and some of the others. I want to point out there are thousands of each of these types of social networks. Many of them are very, very good. For the sake of time and interest, I just tried to pick out the real common ones that people would want to start using on their own. Next thing, these are the top social networks. If you want to take a screenshot of that, welcome to do so. And here again, these are ranked, and this is in 2022, in the beginning of 2022. These were the top ranked by the amount of people that were active users. So you can see your top ones. I didn't list YouTube because YouTube does so much more than social media. I will give a separate presentation on YouTube, how to use it and what it's for. WhatsApp, I do want to mention that briefly because this is one, if you're going overseas or communicating with people overseas, or if you're posting videos or prompts, they do not place what we call cookies on your computer or your device. What cookies do is track things that you're doing. Most places do, but what they're tracking is like what websites do you go to, so they know where to sell information to. WhatsApp does not do that. Also, if you post videos or information, none of that information is stored on WhatsApp except as you requested to store it. So it's a pretty safe one to use. A lot of people like it. The rest of them on there are pretty well self-explanatory. Instagram, that came out as a social media site where a person has doing something very brief and it disappears after a while. And I'll cover this in one of the other slides very quickly. But anyway, you can look at those. Those are the popular ones. You can play around with looking at each of these. Some of them you don't even have to join. Almost all of them offer a free membership that you can quit at any time. Common social sites. Here again, Facebook. And if you click on what you see there, or do control left mouse, it'll open up to Facebook and show you what it's like, and it'll give you the opportunity to join it or to use your own Facebook. This is good for family, friends, and groups. Twitter, people that you would like to know, especially famous people. Next one is Snapchat. Snapchat is short live chat sessions but the things on Snapchat it was designed to where things disappear after 30 seconds or so. The teenagers were using this to send obscene pictures of themselves and things like that. But what has happened is people would take screenshots. The person thought that their picture went away. Next week, a person in their school would share with everybody in their school. And again, been causing things such as like suicide and stuff like that. But Snapchat is very good. A lot of people use it. It's fairly safe. If you're doing things here again that you want people to know, it's a good one to use because it's quick and there's not a lot of data to it. Instagram is the same way. That's primarily owned by Facebook. And it's more US based and more for short messaging, just like Snapchat is. And again, make sure you put things on there you want seen. TikTok, I explained that, short video clips of comedy, challenges, and ideas. And some of the challenges you can do are very interesting, such as like try and ride a bicycle over a certain terrain or something. There's also teaching things on there that are brief. Next door, again, local information. Meetup, local interest groups that you can do. And again, here, anything that's in a blue color, you can wind up clicking on and going right to that site. These are links, or using a control in your left mouse. Pinterest, again, for things of interest. And WhatsApp was the final one. It's a free worldwide phone and video that you can use. People that have FaceTime, they have trouble sometimes communicating with people that are using Android products. People on Android sometimes are trying to communicate with people on that are Apple users. They have trouble. WhatsApp is good for everybody to use and it's friendly to all the platforms. Common senior dating sites. Again, these are the ones that are out there. Again, you can take a screenshot of this, or you can click on it, or you can do a click and left arrow. That's basically the end of the presentation of these here, but I do want to show you a sample of what you can do on Facebook itself. So, but in order to do that, you'll probably have to call me because I'm not going to do it from here. So have a good day, and I hope you enjoyed the talk.